Hi everyone, welcome to the session. In this session I am going to discuss about how to identify break-even point through break-even charts. In my previous video I discussed about how to calculate break-even point by using formula and also how to calculate break-even point in sales revenue by using CS ratio. So in order to identify break-even point by using break-even charts, so we will have to draw the following lines on the charts. Now let's look at what lines to be drawn on the break-even chart in order to calculate break-even point. Basically, the following lines will have to be drawn on the break-even chart to calculate the break-even point. The first one is the sales line. This you need to identify based on the expected selling price times the expected number of sales units. Then you need to draw the fixed cost line and the total cost line. So these are the three lines to be drawn on the break-even chart in order to calculate break-even point. Then the break-even point will be the intersection of the sales line and the total cost line. So when you draw the sales line as well as the total cost line, the intersection of those two lines will be the break-even point. Further, we can identify the margin of safety by identifying the distance between the break-even point and the expected or budgeted sales in units. So margin of safety also can be identified through this break-even chart. Now let's take this example to calculate the break-even point by using break-even chart. First and foremost, let's calculate the break-even point by using the formula. Now the budgeted annual output of a factory is 120,000 units. So you are given the budgeted annual output as 120,000 units. The fixed overhead cost is around 40 million and the variable cost are 500 per unit. The selling price per unit is 1000. Here what you can do is you can by simply dividing the fixed cost by contribution per unit, you can identify the break-even point. So what is the formula? So fixed cost divided by contribution per unit will give you the break-even point. So let's calculate. Now the selling price is 1000 and budgeted annual output of factory is 120,000. So therefore the sales will be, so total sales value will be 120,000 units times, so sales will be 120,000 times 1000, so which will be 120 million US dollars. Less variable cost 120,000 times 500, which is 500 is the variable cost, so that will give you 60 million. Then your contribution per unit is 500 and the total contribution value is 60 million US dollars. Simply you deduct fixed cost, total fixed cost 40 million, so that will give you the total profit 20 million. And what will be the break-even point in units? How did we calculate that? 40 million divided by contribution per unit 500. So that will give you 80,000 units. So that will be the break-even point by using the formula. Now, in order to plot the chart, so what you need to do is you need to identify the total sales total cost, then you have the fixed cost. So these three lines will have to be drawn on the break-even chart to calculate the break-even point. The chart will have vertical axis as well as horizontal axis. Simply you will have vertical axis and horizontal axis. So this is vertical, this is horizontal axis. So basically the vertical axis represents money. So this axis represents the cost and the revenue. However, the horizontal axis represents the level of activity. So this is the production and sales units. So this will represents production and sales units. So vertical axis will represent cost and revenue. Then the fixed costs are represented by a straight line parallel to the horizontal axis. So basically the fixed cost will be parallel to the horizontal axis. So this is fixed cost parallel to the horizontal axis, simply because the fixed cost will not change. Fixed cost will not change regardless of your production level. Even if you produce 0 unit or 120 units, your fixed cost will be 40 million. So this will not change. So this is known as fixed cost. Then the variable cost are added on top of the fixed cost to give total cost. So basically the variable cost will start from the top of the fixed cost. As you increase the number of units, your variable cost will increase as well as your total cost will increase. Now let's try to identify the total revenue, the fixed cost and the total cost under different level of activities, different level of production. When you produce 0 units, your revenue will be 0. However, still you will have to incur your fixed cost. So even if you don't produce any units, still you will have to pay your fixed cost, such as you will have to pay your rent, you will have to pay your insurance. So those kind of expenses will have to be anyway paid regardless of your production. So therefore the total expenses will be 40 million. So when you produce 20,000 units times 1,000, that will be 20 million. Your fixed cost is 40. Your total expenses will be fixed cost plus the variable cost. So your variable cost will be 20,000 times 500. So that will be 10 million. Okay, so these are in millions. So 10 million plus 40 million will be 50 million. That will be your total expenses. So when you produce 40, your revenue will be 40 million. Fixed cost is still the same, plus the variable cost 10,000. So that will be 20,000. So 20,000, because you are producing 40 times 500 will be 20 million. So thereby your variable cost plus the fixed cost will be 60 million. That will be your total cost. So likewise 60,000, 80,000, 100,000, 120,000. So your total revenue will be 120,000. Still your fixed cost will be 40 million. Then the total expenses will be 100 million. Your total profit will be 20 million. So 120 million, 40 million, 100 million, profit will be 20 million. So based on this table, we'll try to draw these lines, and we'll try to identify the break-even point through the break-even chart. Now we'll take the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. So this is your vertical axis and this is horizontal axis. Your horizontal axis will be the units 0 to 120. So what we can do is, this is 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, this is 120. So we'll extend this. So this is your production as well as sales units. This is horizontal. Then the vertical, the total highest number of revenue is 120 million, whereas your total expense is 100 million. So therefore we'll take up to 120 million. So what we can do is, we can take 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 and 120. So this is 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 and 120. So this is your vertical axis, which represents revenue and the production cost. So if you produce, first of all we'll try to draw the sales line as I explained you in the previous slides. We need to draw the sales line first, then the fixed cost line and the total cost line. Now let's take these points and we'll try to plot the graph. So we'll start with 0 units. Your revenue will be 0. So this is this point. So when you produce 20,000 units, your revenue will be 20 million. So 20,000, 20 million, 40,000, 40 million. So this is the point. And 60,000, 60 million. And 80,000, 80 million. 100,000, 100 million. 120,000, 120 million. So you need to join these points to show the sales line. So this is the sales. Next we'll plot the fixed cost line, which is fixed cost is 40 million. In this question it is given fixed cost as 40 million. So if you produce 0 units, still you have to incur fixed cost. If you produce 20,000 units, then your cost will be 40 million. 40,000 units, still it is 40 million. 60,000 units, 40 million. Regardless of the production, your fixed cost is going to be fixed. 80, 40 million, 100,000, 40 million, 120,000, 40 million. So if you join this, it will be a straight line. This is your fixed cost line. Then the total cost. This is the total cost. The total cost includes fixed cost plus the variable cost. So the variable cost we calculated and we have added on this total cost. So when you produce 0, the total cost will be 40. 0 unit 40. If it is 20, it will be 50. So if you produce 20, your cost will be 50. Then 40,000, it will be 60. So 40,000, 60. Then if you produce 60,000, it's going to be 70. So 60, 70, 80, 80. So 80,000, still 80,000 here. 100, it's going to be 90. 120, it's going to be 100. So this is your total cost line. So let's join these points. This is the total cost line. Now we have drawn the total sales line, total fixed cost, and the total cost. So from these lines, the sales line and the total cost line, the intersection between the total cost and the total sales will be the break-even point. So what is the point? So this is the intersection between the sales and the total cost line. So which is how much? 80,000 units, and the sales revenue will be $80 million. So this is in millions. So basically these are in millions. These figures are given in thousands. So here 80,000 units. When you produce 80,000 units, you will break even. So break even means neither profit nor loss. There is no profit nor loss situation, and your sales revenue will be 80 million. So this is how you identify the break-even point through break-even chart. As you can see that we calculated the break-even point by using the formula. We derived 80,000 units. Also we derived 80,000 units as break-even point through break-even chart. So this can be further explained through Excel. If you want to identify break-even point by using Excel charts, what you need to do is you need to highlight this area, the units, the total revenue, fixed cost, and total expenses. Then from the chart you need to select line charts. You need to select the line chart. So thereby we can identify the break-even point through these lines. So the final graph will look like this. 0 unit, so the green line represents the revenue line, orange represents the fixed cost line, red represents total expenses line, total cost line. The intersection between the total sales and the total cost, which is 80,000 units. So this is 80,000 units and 80 million. So this point. So this is the point. So which is 80,000 and 80 million. So this will be the break-even point by using break-even chart. I hope this is very clear to you. If you have any questions or any clarifications, please comment below. I'll see you soon with another video. So thanks for watching. If you like the videos, you can subscribe the channel and click the notification button to receive more updates, more videos on accounting and management accounting lectures. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.